Hi everyone. In this video we're going to look at the logical or Boolean operators and, or, and not. And so you can see that these operators are a little bit different because they are actually words instead of represented by symbols like the arithmetic and relational operators were. And if you recall from the last video when we looked at relational or comparison operators, the results of those operators when we evaluated them were what we called Boolean values or true or false values. Okay, the logical operators, which you can see are also known as Boolean operators, combine Boolean values in more complicated ways to produce other Boolean values that sort of are the result of that evaluation. And so I think they'll make sense to you after a little bit here, and so we're going to look at those right now. And we'll start with the not operator, and I'm just going to show it to you in a Python shell. The not operator just takes a true or false value and returns its opposite, right? So if I tell you something is not true, well, what do you think it is? It's false, right? And if something is not false, well, then it's true. And if we look at that in Python, right, I'm just in a regular Python shell. If I say not true, I want you to notice a couple things. First off, there's only one operand, right? The operand is the thing being operated on, and this is the operator, right? So this is what's called a unary operator, U-N-A-R-Y, meaning it only has one operand, as opposed to like the plus sign, which has two operands, 3 plus 4. 3 and 4 would be the operands. So not true is false, right? Second thing I want you to notice, just to again sort of emphasize this, in Python the true and false Boolean values begin with capital letters. That's really important. If you say not true without the capital letters, first of all, notice that true is black and not orange. That's sort of indicating that this is not a keyword. It's going to be a variable, and this is going to give me an error because Python doesn't know what the word true means. It thinks that that's a variable that's not currently holding any value, right? So it gives me this, the name true is not defined. That just means it thinks this is a variable and I haven't made it equal to anything, okay? And so, you can do some really funky things actually, because I could actually define the variable true to hold the value false, right? And then I could say something like not true, I'm having troubles here. And it gives me true, right? So that's a little bit goofy. But remember that we're taking Boolean values and finding the opposite here, right? So this not true is saying not false, which is true, okay? So again, just be aware that the Boolean values in Python are capitalized. Okay, let's look at the other two, the and the or operators. In order to do that, we're going to look at what's called a truth table, okay? So I have here the truth tables for or and operators. This might look a little intimidating, a little confusing. Just bear with me, and I think it'll make sense. What we have here at the top in the first two columns are P and Q. Now, P and Q are simply variables, okay? I chose P and Q because that's sort of the standard choice when we're talking about logic. You'll see it more if you study computer science, but these are sort of logical expressions that evaluate either true or false. But there's no reason really why this had to be P or Q. They're just variable names. Could have been X and Y, could have been J and K, could have been anything. But P and Q is sort of the natural choice, the common traditional choice used for these. And they represent something that, again, is true or false in real life, maybe, right? So let's start with or, okay? If we look at these first two columns, we see different combinations of P and Q. And these are all of the possible combinations of true and false values for P and Q, right? They can either both be true, P could be true and Q could be false, and vice versa, or they could both be false. These are the only possible four combinations. Now, when we look at this or operator, it's combining those two truth values in a certain way and giving us back a true or false value, okay? So this might look a little confusing, but I think when we turn it into English, sort of natural language, you'll find it, again, kind of natural and easy to understand. So let's actually give meaning to P and Q, okay? Let's say P means, it's the true or false value of the statement, it is a weekend today, right? So let's just say weekend. We'll say W-E, weekend, okay? And let's say Q is the true or false value that it is summer today. It's in the summer, right? So Q is standing for summer, okay? And let's let P or Q, right, be the true or false value of a statement that a certain park is open, okay? So this park is open on weekends and summertime, right? But weekdays during the school year, they can't get people to work in it, so it's closed, right? So P or Q means the park is open, right? So park, you can think of it as like Kennywood or something, right? Park is open. Now, let's actually look at these values and see if they make sense, right? If it's a weekend during the summer, well then yeah, the park should definitely be open because it's a weekend and it's the summertime. So is the park open? Yes, true. Yes, it is. Okay, well let's look at the second row. Let's say it's a weekend, but it's not the summertime, it's during the school year. Well, should the park be open? Yes, because it, again, is a weekend. Yes, that's true, the park is open. Let's say it's not a weekend, but it is the summertime. Is the park open? Yes, it is. And the only time the park is closed is if it's not a weekend and it's during the school year. It's not the summertime. These are both false. Is the park open? False. Park is not open. This would be a false statement to say the park is open, and so there's an F here for false. Okay? Hopefully that makes some sense, right? Let's look at the AND operator. I'm going to get rid of this me so that you can see the rest of this. So we've got P and Q. Well, let's think about that. Let's say, if it's summertime and it's the weekend, well then the park's really crowded, and so they can charge a lot of money, right? So if it's both summertime and the weekend, then the price is more, right? So they charge more money, right? So we'll let P and Q be the truth value of whether or not they are charging more on this day, right? So if it's a weekend and it's the summertime, well then yes, both of those things are true, and so we're charging more. That's true, okay? If it's a weekend but it's not the summertime, well, since it's not the summertime, there aren't as many people out, so we don't charge more, so charging more would be false, right? If it's not the weekend but it's the summertime, again, not as many people at the park, so we don't charge more. And then if it's neither the weekend nor the summertime, the park's not even open, so we definitely don't charge more, and that's false. Okay? So this is how AND works. If both are true, then the result is true, right? Going back to OR, if either are true, or both, then the whole thing is true. And that's the difference between AND and OR. And so we can use AND and OR in specific ways to make decisions in programs. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, call me over, ask me about it, or ask a neighbor. Right now I'm going to do a real quick program with you just to sort of show you how the logical operator might be used in Python in an actual program. And so you might see some new stuff here, but that's good. And just so follow along, you can program it with me yourself, or you can just watch. So what I've got here is an empty document. And I'm going to type a program in here and try to explain it as I go, right? So let's imagine that we are writing a program that is asking the user what time it is, and if it's in the middle of the night, it's going to tell the user that they should go to bed. And if it's not in the middle of the night, it's going to tell them, have a nice day, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is ask the user what time it is and store their answer in a variable. And the way that we do that is with the input statement. So I'm going to let t be the variable that's standing for time, and I'm going to ask the user, using the input command, what time is it? Okay. Now you can see here it says input prompt, and it's returning a string. Okay, that's actually important. We'll talk about that in a sec. So I'm going to say, what time is it? Okay. Now, as soon as I run this program, it's going to type out what time it is and allow the user to type a number. And it's going to, actually, the user could type whatever they wanted to. It's going to be stored as a string. Now, I want that to be interpreted as a number. So what I'm going to do is wrap that in the int function, which converts strings to integers. Okay. And we're going to do this in military time, right? So the hours can go from 0 up to 23, and 24 would be the same as 0 is like midnight, and so like 2300 hours would be 11 o'clock. So 100 hours would be 1 in the morning. And so what I want to do is say, well, if it's after 11 o'clock at night, or if it's before, let's say, 6 in the morning, then I want to tell the user, hey, go back to bed, right? Otherwise, I'm going to say, have a nice day. Well, the way we do a test like that is to use the if command, right? And the if command lets us make decisions. Now, I want to test this t variable using a relational operator. I want to say, hey, if t is greater than 2300, right, so 11 o'clock at night, then I want them to go to bed. But that's not the only time I want them to go to bed. I also want them to go to bed if t is less than 600, right? Now remember, 600 means 6 in the morning. And the question here is, well, what goes in between these to make this happen, right? It's a logical operator, but which one? Well, can I have a number that's both greater than 2,300 and less than 600? No, that's impossible. So we're going to have an or here. If t is greater than 2,300 or it's less than 600, then I want to say go to bed. Okay. Otherwise, I can say have a nice day. Okay, and so now this program is using a logical operator to combine two truth values that are created with these relational operators, greater than or less than, and making a decision based on that. And that's how, just a quick simple example of how we would use those logical operators to do that. And we can run this real quick. And when I do that, you can see it brings us over here, and I say, what time is it? And I'm going to say, you know what, it's 4 in the morning. And it tells me, hey, go to bed, right? Or if I run it again, and I give it a time, like, it's 1 in the afternoon, 1,300 hours. Hey, have a nice day, okay? And so that's just a quick example. Hopefully that makes sense. Again, ask me if you have any questions, and see you next time.